Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and we're going to be providing an update to the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. We like to do this video occasionally. I don't do it every single week, but especially with this recent move to the downside below the bull market support band, it does seem prudent to provide updates to where these moving averages are because we do know the importance of this level. It did provide support during the first half of the year in the uptrend, and I suspect it will provide resistance during theoretically the second half of the year's downtrend, in line with our general expectation of Bitcoin spending half the year going up and half the year going down. Now, as of today, the 20-week SMA is coming in at around 27,943. The 21-week EMA is at 27,207. So basically, we're looking at a range here for the bull market support band or bear market resistance band, if you prefer, from around 27,000 to around $28,000. And currently, the price of Bitcoin is at $25,750. So the general expectation is, and I say this now because if you think back over the last several months, there have been a few periods here and there where we get pretty substantial moves back up to the upside, and crypto Twitter loses their collective mind and they say, this is crazy and everything's changed. But if you think back, we had one of those moments only a couple weeks ago, and it was nothing more than a wick. And if you think back, not too long before that, when the altcoin market, right? If you were to go look at Total 3, if you remember, this move here by Total 3 was nothing more than a wick, and we ended up closing again below that 20-week moving average, right? So it's easier to talk about this stuff on days like today when I would at least think that it's easier for people to look at this with a sort of a calmer head. When the market moves quickly in one direction or the other, it's easy to let emotions rule the day. But when the price has been going sideways for 3 or 4 weeks and nothing has happened, then I would like to think that we could look at it from a more rational point of view. And that's to say that at some point in the coming months and the coming weeks, we'll likely have back tests of the bull market support band. And as long as we do not get multiple weekly closes back above this, which is what I do not expect that to happen this year. Okay, so I want to lay that out pretty clear because it's also important to have an invalidation, right? So my expectation for the rest of the year for Bitcoin is that it just simply remains in a downtrend. But a downtrend is not characterized by down only, it's characterized by a series of lower highs and lower lows. Okay, so that is my general expectation. And along with that expectation is I do not expect Bitcoin to get multiple consecutive weekly closes above its bull market support band collectively, right? I don't expect that. So if we were to get that, then it might be time to go back to the drawing board and say, well, what's going on? Like, why is it changing? But until that happens, and I'm going to assume that the status quo remains the same, and the status quo being that Bitcoin spends half the year going up and half the year going down. So, if we do get renewed interest where Bitcoin goes back up, I would expect this bull market support band to more or less provide resistance, and that currently ranges from around 27,000 to approximately $28,000. Do note that in 2019, once we got below the 20-week SMA, we actually did get a rally back up above the 20-week SMA, but again, it was nothing more than a wick, right? So I mean, you could have an example where Bitcoin goes back above it, sometime in the next few months, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it closes above it, or if it does, it might just be a single close above it, right? Um, and I know there were some people that were talking about, well, is this a fake out? I think the issue is that normally with fake outs, you don't get multiple weekly closes like this below, right? If it's a fake out, you normally just get something like this where it just sort of pops above it and then goes back the other way. Um, this case, we've gone below it and we're just sort of hanging out just below it. Now, to break down that 2019 move for you even more, and we talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about sort of this upcoming death cross. In 2019, Bitcoin actually rallied into the death cross. Okay, so and again, that's not it doesn't happen every single death cross, but there are previous death crosses that you can actually see the Bitcoin rallies into. So like you can see that Bitcoin rallied into that death cross, but it was still a lower high, But here's the catch with that rally. Here's the catch with the rally. Yes, it rallied into the death cross, which is what Bitcoin is about to get in 2023. But when it rallied into the death cross, it wasn't until after it took out this June low, right? So you see that June low, this rally into the death cross. I mean, it could have been coincidental that it happened to rally into the death cross. Maybe it just rallied because it took out this low, right? But it did not get any substantial rally until it took out the June low. There were some rallies in here, right? There were some sizable rallies in here. And again, like, it doesn't look like anything today because you're not, we're not living through it today. We're just looking at it on the chart and saying, oh, well, look at that. But, this was a rally. This was a 10% rally, right? And then this was a pretty substantial rally. It was like a 13% rally. But today we just simply look at those and we kind of like stick our noses up to it. And it was like these other rallies, by the way, were rejected at the 50-day. They were both rejected at the 50-day. Look at today. Look at today. Where do you think these rallies have been rejected at? Where do you think this last one was rejected at? Basically right around that 50-day moving average, right? So, if Bitcoin does see a lower high where it gets some type of rally up to a lower high, if it follows 2019, it's kind of, you kind of see two pieces of evidence here, because we know that it rallied into the death cross, which is what we're going to get tomorrow. But we also know that the rally didn't come until the June low was taken out, which still hasn't happened yet. And in order to do that, we'd have to go below 24.8K, right? So, I mean, again, like, I don't, the optimist would say, well, the death cross is occurring now. Therefore, people are going to look at it as bad news and sell, and then the price goes up. The other person, the pessimist, might say, well, that rally back then didn't even occur until this low was taken out. So why should we assume it's going to occur this time before that low is taken out? And you remember how we said those other rallies were like 10% and 13%? This rally over here, about a 10% rally, right? It felt crazy, didn't it? I mean, everyone again was losing their collective mind, and now who cares about it? Like, it was just completely sold off almost immediately. And by the way, we talked about the optimist and the pessimist point of view. What about the 2015 point of view? The 2015 point of view says to hell with these ideas of these lower highs. To hell with it, right? After you get this sizable 2x rally, you just go down and double bottom. Forget these lower highs that you're talking about. What if there's just no bid when we break the low? What if Bitcoin breaks 24.8 and there's just simply not a bid? That becomes an issue, and that's what happened in 2015. When it broke down, there just simply wasn't a bid until it hit the prior low. I mean, it dropped 50%. I think it was like 48.9% or 49% or something. Like, let's just get it, right? Don't take my word for it. 49.12% or so. Look at that drop. It was a 50% drop from this high. I mean, again, today, like a 50% drop from this high puts Bitcoin back at a double bottom. So you cannot go into this deterministic about anything, right? Because you can get wrecked if you do that. We can look at 2019 and say, well, it rallied into the death cross. We could say, well, yeah, maybe it rallied into the death cross, but at first it got the June low, which it still hasn't done yet this cycle. And then the 2015 person would say, you know what? Why are you guys so optimistic? What if there's just not a bid when it takes out the low and we just capitulate into a double bottom? You might argue that this year looks more like 2019 in terms of it rallied for the first half of the year, just like 2019 did. So we could argue that it's more similar to 2019 in that regard, that in 2019 we rallied for half the year and then faded, right? So rally for half the year and then fade. But you could also make the comparison to 2015 as well, because in 2015, while the first half of the year was a bit worse and the second half of the year got a lot better, this was only a 2x rally and then a 50% drop, right? It was a 2x rally and a 50% drop. Today, it's a 2x rally. Not like a 3 to 4x rally like we saw in 2019. It's more of a 2x rally. So in terms of the magnitude of the rally, it's more similar to 2015. In terms of the timing of the rally and the time-based component, it's more similar to 2019. right? So it's, I mean, it really, it really depends on sort of what your bias is, I suppose, as to, as to what you think is sort of the more important thing to look at, right? If you were to look at year to date ROI for Bitcoin and just sort of hide out all these other ones and just look at 2023 and add the average of 2015 and 2019, which I think is good to do, you can kind of see that we're sort of just following that path. And these lows down here would represent 23K. I, I think Bitcoin's going to hit 23K relatively soon in the next few weeks. I think it'll hit 23K and take out, I think we'll break the prior low. So I think Bitcoin could break that prior low of 24.8, go down to 23K at some point, and that's where altcoins really find what's up. Because again, we saw what altcoins did before when Bitcoin went up, but what do they do when Bitcoin goes down? So that's where we are. We know where the bull market support band is. So if there is any type of rallies, you know where to look as potential resistance. It's that 20-week SMA, 21-week EMA zone. And my speculation is that that bull market support band should act as resistance for the second half of the year in the same way that it acted as support for the first half of the year, in line with our general expectations that Bitcoin spends half the year going up and half the year going down. So by the end of the pre-halving year, both bulls and bears are sufficiently wrecked. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.